Clock, meeting will come to order. Thank you everyone for being here. Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting for June the 11th. Will you stand and join me in the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Hey, Secretary, call the roll, please.
Division 1,
Here.
Division 2,
Here.
Division 3,
Here.
Division 4,
Present.
Division 5.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Next item will be public comment for items that are not on the agenda. And let me add that anyone who wants to talk, we welcome your comments. You will be limited to 3 minutes. And just so for those who don't know, this board and staff cannot really engage with you or comment on your comments for anything that isn't on the agenda. So with that, Mr. Wallen.
Great. Thank you, Otis Wallen, with Bear Park, which is Bear River Protection and Restoration Collaborative. Just a quick update. As you know, we've reached out to the community. I've seen this. We've sent this to 4,300 residents within a mile of the canyon, and we've met with a number of them in public meetings and also on the web, and got another 400 people signed up on the on our newsletter. And pretty remarkably, the website was attended by 6,000 unique visitors who went through 80,000 pages, which, if you do the math, is actually everybody reading every page more than once, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But then some of the stats say they're actually spending a fair amount of time, like between 5 and 15 minutes on the website. So we have a really engaged public. As you know, we're promoting the vision for that stretch of river remaining in public hands and being available to the public. And we have some opportunities coming up, and I just want to make sure that you know that we're wanting to work very closely with you to identify the right funds and the right ways of transferring those lands when the time is appropriate for doing that. Just recently, within the last couple of days, the Prop 4 plan that the governor had presented the legislature in the bipartisan legislative budget was deleted and returned to the governor's desk without the plan for how they're going to spend the $10 billion in Prop 4. So the expectation is that the governor's office is going to negotiate and come back to the legislature. So it's really within a week or two that we're going to have some idea of how the $10 billion, which has a lot of acquisition money, recreation money, fuel reduction money, tribal resource investment money, tribal acquisition money, park acquisition money, we're going to have a better sense of how all of that begins to unfold over the next several years. They're going to lay it out over a few years, is what was in the governor's plan originally. So we're going to learn more in the next couple of weeks. And we want to just indicate we want to be working closely with your staff to when you are ready to work with those lands. We are very happy to work with you, and the public that we've encountered is vitally interested. So we'll help to solve this very complex puzzle that involves 2 land trusts, 2 counties, state and local governments, nonprofits, tribes, you name it. This is a delightful puzzle. You won't have to do Wordle for years. Just work on this. It'll be fine. Thanks very much.
Thank you for your comment. Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience here? I see none. How about in the virtual audience? Is there anyone there that would like to raise your hand and be recognized? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Next is the consent agenda. Items 3A, 3B, and 3C.
Madam President, I move the consent agenda. Approve the consent agenda. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Secretary, call the roll, please.
Yes.
Division 4,
Yes.
Division 3,
Aye.
Division 2,
Aye.
Division 1.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. All right, next item, general orders. Item 4A, surplus property sales, real estate broker contracting to authorize the general manager or designee to contract with Century 21 Select Real Estate of Auburn and Century 21 Cornerstone Realty of Grass Valley for surplus property sales. Jennifer, take it away.
Thank you, President Heck. This item is to request consideration from the board of adopting or approving an item that will allow us to enter into sales agreements with a realtor firm that was selected for the disposition of the Centennial properties. So this is kind of that second or third step we're getting to now. So staff submitted a statement of qualifications request, and we received 8 responses to the request. And from those 8 responses, there was a staff committee that then went through and ranked all of those responses. Based off of the ranking, there were 3 selected for further analysis, and that consisted of an interview. And then 1 firm was selected. So the firm that was selected, as President Heck just stated, was Century 21 Select Real Estate of Auburn, and they're teamed with Century 21 Cornerstone Realty of Grass Valley. And the reason why they were selected is they came the most prepared. They had a very sound marketing plan. They had done significant research on all of the parcels already. And so we did feel that they would best serve the district through this endeavor. So what staff's plan is that when you traditionally buy and sell properties, the seller enters into a sales agreement with the realtor. And so we would be entering into individual sales agreements with the realtors on a parcel by parcel basis.
Mhm.
Our plan is essentially to focus on moving tranches of them forward at a time. And an individual sales agreement would be entered into. If at any time we felt that the service, not that I think this is going to happen at all, but if the service was substandard or we needed to make a modification, the way that we're formatting this process would allow us to make that modification in the future if we needed to. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Questions? Yes.
I just want to confirm that all the easements that we think we need have been looked at, secured, et cetera,
Correct, yes.
already. And we are going to allow the current tenants to make an offer if they want to. And how would that work with the real estate group here?
So we would have to, so there are a couple of tenants that likely would not be making offers and we don't have the best relationship with. So I wouldn't say carte blanche, we're gonna be approaching it in that manner. But from a state law perspective, we would still have to sell the parcel at market value in order for it not to be a gift of public funds. But I do think there is some opportunity to sell a property to a couple of the current renters or tenants. And what that would, the benefit that would be for the district is that we likely would not have to pay a buyer agent fee as well. So we would save some money. So we would include all that into the analysis.
How would we determine what is a fair market value if the realtors are not working on it?
We would have to have an appraisal.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, so commission's about 5 to 6% range.
So been a new state law change.
Yeah.
Ricky could speak to this more than I can, but with the new state law change, essentially there is a commission that we are required to pay for our agent. The
Listing agent.
listing agent, the buyer's agent, that is a separate negotiation that takes place. But yes, it's typically, 2.5 and 2.5. With the team that we selected, it depends on the magnitude of services that we require for each parcel as to so it'd be anywhere from 2 to 3%.
So the 5 to 6 is the total amount.
Correct.
Okay. And I think the same owner for both the Cornerstone.
Yeah, it's under the same.
It's under the same, yes.
Yeah, same, okay. And so each property is going to be put on at a different time, or are they all going to be processed and put on at the same?
Yeah, we're looking at doing 4 to 5 at a time. Some of it has to do with parcels that are currently vacant. Some of it has to do with coordinating with the current tenants. So they all kind of have their own,
Whether we have to do condition,
Yes.
upgrades.
any
I mean, okay,
upgrades, they all have their own specific conditions.
Timeline, yeah.
It's Really well to putting out kind of tranches of them.
And Cornerstone is, or Century 21 is willing to put up 30,000.
Yeah, they have
If we have to go beyond that, then we'll dip into our,
if that's what we decide to do. So the Century 21 has a program by which you can borrow up to $30,000 for small improvements, carpet, paint, those types of things. And essentially it's a 180-day no interest loan that gets paid back within 180 days or when the property sells, whichever is earlier. That is a really good thing for us since we
Mhm.
are complicated as being a public agency with procurement and contracting. So that is a very nice program. Now, whether or not you sell something as is or do a small upgrade, that will be determined on a parcel by parcel basis specific to the condition of that parcel and whether or not any upgrades would actually result in additional monies.
and then we would have to step up if it needed more than 30,000.
We would. So the way that this will be handled moving forward is we will bring forth an item that will identify a specific staff negotiator, which will likely be myself or Greg Jones. And we will handle all of these negotiations with the board through closed session property negotiations. So if there was for some reason, I don't know, I'm going to make something up. We're going to spend $60,000 on new siding and a roof. Those conversations would be had with the board before we go forth and do it because it may not necessarily result in additional money. It could delay the project. We would have to carefully think through those types of investments.
So let's say 4 or 5 houses go on sale. And we're looking for the greatest net return to the district. It may or may match up to an appraisal value. If it's lower than appraisal value, we can still accept it under certain conditions or not?
Would be very limited.
Yeah,
I would say generally no, because you're by definition giving something below fair market value. But if
exactly.
there was some competing consideration, you're losing $5,000 a month and you're selling 5,000 below your appraised value, then I think that's a consideration you could make. But generally, you're selling for not less than fair market value.
Okay, so once the house goes on the market, immediately they get a bid or an offer. Do we then hold? We have some protection because of the appraisal, but who is doing the appraisal? Number one, and then do we wait a period of time, like 7 days, 10 days, 14 days, to see if there's other offers coming in that might even be better for us?
So it would likely be that we would only do the appraisal if we were having a one-sided sale, as in we are going to sell to our current tenant. Typically, the buyer's agent does the appraisal. The realtor does a comparative market analysis to develop the price for each parcel. So it takes into a lot of considerations.
So in the contract, then, our sellers who are representing us, they're obligated to tell us about every single offer they get, regardless of who it's
Yep.
from.
Absolutely.
The
That's the
goal.
law.
And so having gone through this process, I like to have okay, we get an offer. It's based on that comparable value that our seller has come up with. I still want to see a little waiting period before we can accept it. And does the board have to accept it in closed session?
Come back in closed session, and there might be some times in which you would, if you get an offer below market value and you're not getting much interest, you have to make the decisions as you would on a typical sale. We're not going to be all that much different. There may be a case where you do take the first offer. It's 5,000 over asking price. We're done. We're out, right? It's also a cost benefit for risk.
Is every offer's, I'm sorry, subject to board approval? Is that going to be?
We'll come in and we'll have to handle some of this in closed session. We can
Yeah.
handle it one or two ways. If the board wants to be extremely nimble, we can bring every offer in and vote on it. If the board wants to provide some greater parameters, we can do it that way too. It depends on, and as I'm sure Ricky is probably very aware of, these things can happen very quickly. So if we want to be extremely nimble and everyone's ready to call a meeting within 24 hours, we can certainly do that.
I'm sorry, I jumped over you, Rich.
No,
Continue,
it's, you had it.
Tracy.
So if our seller representing us and the offer comes from one of their agents within their organization, they'll disclose that to us.
Yes.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's critical.
Oh, yeah.
It's the state law. It's the
Yeah.
law.
Understand? I just want to make
They're
it very clear that when we look,
It is extremely professional. I don't
Yeah.
have any ethical worries about them.
understood.
This is also why we're, going to be viewing this as looking at parcels and tranches so that something is going sideways or we're not getting the service we desire, then, we can make a modification.
I said it, there's a 15-day escape clause for us.
What?
It was in the contract.
Well, so we will not be signing our consultant services agreement. We will be signing a traditional sales agreement. That was kind of just a leftover from our
And so-
traditional template.
And our law firm that would be representing us, looking at the contracts, is that,
We might not, well, I mean, we always have Dustin and his team and we reach out to them whenever. The typical sales agreements, we can review the first couple, they're
All
standard,
CAR
they're
forms.
templates. Yeah.
if they are all CAR formed, I'm good.
They typically would be.
But
We've
having,
never done a transaction that hasn't, but we'll take a look at it.
oh,
Well, we discussed this, Rich. You have, because yours was an extraordinary different thing. And all the lawyers had to get involved, but these, onesie twosie houses and pieces of land will likely all be done on CAR forms. And if not, if they try to do another form, we can object. We can want it, there's lots of options for us.
I would stress that everything became a lot easier once the CAR form was used.
These are real
Very clear
traditional
cut.
real estate transactions.
Yeah.
There's not going to be abnormal forms going on.
Okay, because didn't run it up on our side, but boy, tens and tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars when other forms are being used.
Mhm.
And it's word salad. You can't understand it. So the CAR forms for me, very clear. Could understand them, straightforward, been vetted by thousands of lawyers already. Okay, so I want to make that a condition that CAR forms are being used.
We don't necessarily need to make any condition.
Well-
We're going to have to deal with all these persons on a one-on-one basis, but we deal with transactions all the time, and we'll run anything that's abnormal through.
Okay.
We do currently.
And then the other thing, and I would, Ricky helped me out on this too. We talked yesterday about disclosures. So our property management team probably knows more about those properties than we do, but I think disclosing everything and anything that we even think about is on our benefit. Is good for us because then
That's the
we can run it down, deal with it at the time. And even if we can go back when we bought these properties and look at what was disclosed to us.
That's our
Right.
plan. The good
Good.
news about NID is we are really good at keeping a lot of paper, a lot of records, and the property manager's records are meticulous. They have every single anything that has, broken light switch, anything. So we've already talked about just providing the spreadsheets that track anything we're
Perfect.
aware of.
Yeah, I think, thank God. Yeah, and good. Okay, so right at this moment, I'm good.
Chris, do you have?
Yeah, follow up on the 30,000, refresh and refurbish. I think it's a great idea, but I was a little fuzzy on who decides that at what time. And the other part of that question, I think I heard you say that we could delegate you to make a decision if it went above that parameters, if it went above that, then we come to the board. Is that, I'm a little fuzzy on that whole.
This is a program that Century 21 offers to any
Right.
property that they're representing. So this would be, for example, if we decided to paint the house.
My question was, who decides?
Well, it would be staff. So that's within our authority now. They don't decide. We would decide. And the conversation will come in with the board. It's not like we'll be asking for approval to paint something.
They could recommend, though.
They might recommend and
They can
we'll say,
recommend and say, hey,
"Hey,
this,
we're-
to sell this, we
yeah.
gotta do
Staff,
this.
staff would be involved in each one of these.
absolutely.
Say,
It's not just.
We would say, we agree to the 30,000 max or something like that and just go forward.
It would be one by one. So it'd be, okay, they are recommending we replace this small deck and staircase in the backyard and do carpeting. And we'll say yes or no. And it might be, okay, do the carpeting. I'm gonna have my own staff go do the deck real quick.
Mhm.
And small electrical work, we're not gonna hire an electrician. We would have our electricians go out there and do it.
No,
So
I
it all
think
just depends on. what
That's
it
a
is.
great thing because I've always known about the paint and carpet. You want to do that when you're selling.
Are you done?
Yep.
Okay, Brad,
Thank you.
please, your comments.
I like the proposal that's presented. I hope this isn't premature. We, as we sell these properties, I wish that we had a clear path forward on additional storage at Rollins before we divested of these properties. It'd be unfortunate if we found ourselves in a position where we needed to repurchase them in the future. But as far as the contracting agent, I think that's fine. And I would be in favor of giving the GM, Jennifer, yourself, pretty broad parameters for negotiations. I know the real estate agents are their incentive is to get the best price for us and to make it happen as fast as possible. So the more leeway we gave to you in negotiating this, I think would be advantageous to the board and to the agency.
Agree with that 100%.
I think as long as we have a good appraisal value, yes. And looking at each one and what we paid for them, kind of gives us a baseline.
No, it does definitely.
And so anything that deviates from that too much, I would like to see us having more oversight.
Oh yeah, for sure. So how we'll probably handle it is we'll identify the first 4 parcels. We'll bring an item that formally identifies myself or Greg as the negotiator. We'll come into closed session. We'll review the comparative market analysis with the board, and then we can kind of develop parameters in those tranches.
Okay, and that was my next question is when would we determine what parameters you were able to operate in?
I think as soon as we get the comparative market analysis, we'll come back to the board, tell you what our plan is, how we're going to market them, what, kind of get some parameters for closing the deal. And then hopefully, we can move through these fairly quickly.
So probably a last question.
Doubt it.
A lot of marketing I saw they were going to do locally or through MLS or through the common, Redfin, yada, yada. But isn't there a farmland one that goes more national?
There is, and I did just recently hear the name, and I have it in my notes, actually.
Well, I'll add a little bit to your question. So I happened to have yesterday a long conversation with, I think his name is Michael Thompson, who's the lead team member, because I had some of my own internal real estate, questions and concerns. And first of all, I'm convinced they're the team. And by the way, I don't know any of these people. Just, it's important. They're not friends or, acquaintances or anything. And so I felt really confident. And through the marketing system, and he and I discussed that, they have Bay Area contacts. They have, once you enter a property into the multiple listing service, it goes out to, I want to say 13 counties, including Bay Area counties. It's a very broad net. It goes into realtor.com, homes.com, Zillow, Redfin, all of those things. And then we also discussed that the farm thing that you're talking about. And so, yes, they're going to, enter this property. Once it goes in, it's broadcasted everywhere. So it's casts a wide net.
I
Very
have it
comfortable.
written down somewhere.
I do. I was really comfortable in the conversation. I thought, staff picked a great team, and I'm excited. And
I believe that the broker has the best incentive to find the
Absolutely.
best buyer for it. So,
absolutely.
and the percentage of the commission rather is the best incentive for them to get it out to as many people as possible. And I would trust their methods without needing to oversee every one of those.
And we're pretty resourceful as staff, so if something's not
Right.
selling, we'll start shaking.
Now, I have one other follow-up question, Jen, and for the board. Is there any time when we would consider a seller financing situation if a property was, not lendable for whatever reason? I do run into that periodically.
I would hope we would never do that. But
I would hope so too, but I just wondered.
Opposed to that.
Well, all of us would.
feel about those loans. So, I mean, if it would have to be a very unique circumstance, and it'd be very painful for me to recommend that.
Can we leave?
Maybe if they're an employee.
Yeah, how about if they're an employee?
Well, it's a really funny story. I was at Best Buy, okay, and was buying a refrigerator. And the fellow who was helping turned out was one of our tenants, just, coincidentally. And then he said, "Oh, I really want to buy this property. Will you guys finance?" And I went, I'm glad you want to buy the property. I said, "Staff is handling this. There'll be a broker, blah, blah, blah." But it brought up the question for me,
Tell them Jennifer says we're not a bank.
Jennifer says we're not a bank, and so no, we're not going to do that.
We have a lot of loans still on the books, so.
I got a follow-up question here on this. We have never lived in these facilities, these buildings, et cetera. If we do a full disclosure, that's great. Can we also put a condition of it is as is because we don't know what's happened there?
Yeah, and there's a box you check
Mhm.
that says we've never lived there. And this is what we do know, but we have not lived there.
We've never occupied the property. It's all been tenant occupied, and we're going to do this to the best of our knowledge and give you the records that we have. And then you are responsible, buyers are responsible to do their own due diligence. Right?
It's okay to say, I don't know, according to Ricky.
That's correct. It's okay to say I don't know.
Even if someone offered us 10% over appraisal price, we couldn't finance it?
I think that's a question or
That's a
conversation
one by one.
on a one-by-one.
I mean,
basis.
300%.
It's more of a legal question. I mean, our
It's a deal
investment,
point question.
Yeah,
but our investment restrictions are so in one lane.
You can legally do that. It's just not, it's a matter of policy, whether it's in the best long-term interest of the district.
Okay.
we have current loans and they're legal. They're just not likely in the best interest of our rate.
Although we did get one out of.
Okay, so I'd like to open it up for public comment on this. Are we done at the board level here with?
One last
Oh,
question.
sure.
We have a requirement for insurance on here. Is this adequate insurance for 17 properties? Do
They're one by one, first of all, remember.
each of those insurance policies is per property?
Right.
Okay, there. I feel better now.
Yeah.
Okay.
What they call it, insurance, but
Yeah,
yes,
you know.
yeah.
Okay, per property, good.
good question. Anything else from the board? Oh, well, look at this. Okay, Mr. Wallen.
Thanks. Otis Wallen with Bear Park again. Out of the 17 parcels, there was only one that was of real interest and concern for us, and that was at the Dog Bar Bridge, the 1+ million dollar property. It's got 600 or so feet of riverbank frontage. 200 feet of it has maybe been cleared off as just a cobble beach. And the other 400 is basically invasive species, blackberry, and other invasive species, and needs restoration. But as we looked at it, there's precious little state or conservation money that's going to be spent on a $1 million human infrastructure for the purpose of revitalizing a few hundred feet of riverbank. So we basically don't have any objection to it going forward. We are, however, reaching out to a group of Silicon Valley newly achieved millionaires, I guess you could say. One of my former colleagues that I worked with for about 10 years is facilitating a Silicon Valley dialogue among a bunch of these guys who have new money, and they are looking at their responsibilities and their investments. And it's kind of like one of those, Bill Gates is doing that with old Silicon Valley money. And these guys are new Silicon Valley money. Anyway, we're reaching out to see if we can find an angel buyer that would buy it for some group. I would find it daunting personally, but maybe the Nature Center in Placer Placer Nature Center or some other environmental education group as a center for that Bear River restoration kind of area. So we are reaching out for an angel buyer. If we find one, you'll be the first to know. And it would happen under the process that you're dealing with right here. It'd be a straightforward, simple sale.
Oh, yeah, they can just make an offer like anybody.
Yeah.
And in the words of Jerry Maguire, show me the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's about the only action that we're taking with regard to these 17 parcels. But yeah, thanks for moving forward.
Thanks, Otis.
I do have one more question.
I
Ed,
told you.
I know. You should take a bet on that.
does any of these have micro ponds? No. So the question is, that particular property probably is going to be one of the first because it's probably in better condition. Don't
Yeah.
know that.
Yes.
And it's got, frontage, river.
It's a beautiful property.
It is.
It has a beautiful access to the river. Yeah, I would think so, but.
It's right up there. Yeah.
Mhm.
Was that your question?
Yeah, no, I just stimulated a little urgency here for Otis.
No.
Oh, right. Okay, is there other comment from the public or from the virtual public? Okay. Seeing none, then we'll close public comment. Okay, well, I think we're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize the general manager or designee to contract with Century 21 Select Real Estate and of Auburn and Century 21 Cornerstone Real Estate of Grass Valley for surplus property sales.
Thank you. And do we have a second?
Go ahead.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Secretary, please call the roll.
Division 5,
Yes.
Division 4,
Yes.
Division 3,
Aye.
Division 2,
Aye.
Division 1.
Yes. Thank you very much, everyone. Good luck, Century 21. We're excited to get that going. Okay, next item 4B, District Policy 1060, Records Retention.
I will handle this one as well. So this item, the district is legally required through the Public Records Act to have a records retention policy. And there's a variety of different regulations and laws that require us to hold documents for specific periods of time. And then in turn, we can service customers or requests in compliance with the Public Record Act request. From time to time, we do go through the records retention policy. When I first got here, the district was in a state of hoarding paper. So we were growing out of any potential storage for all paper. So Chris and all of the management team, as well as all of our admin analysts, they have, and this is a large lift because you have to go through and identify, okay, it's a FERC document. How long do you have to keep it? What's the rules? It's a dam safety item. How long do you have to keep it? What's the rules? So staff went through and did just a wonderful job of updating everything to make sure we're compliant with all the current laws and regulations. And this is our proposed revisions to the retention policy. So what happens is we keep all documents until they come, basically are eligible for destruction. Once the document is eligible for destruction, you then have to fill out a paperwork and document what you then destroyed. So it's this process that goes through binder in the office here. So
Those books, I've looked at once.
they are very cool.
Very cool.
So some things have a coolness factor that we likely just wouldn't destroy because they are so old. They are so cool. But other than that, when you keep records beyond their record retention requirement, it can cause issues for you in the future because when you get a Public Record Act request, if you have the document, you have to produce the document. Even if the document could have been destroyed, you still have to produce it. So it can just create a mess when responding to Public Record Act requests. So this is our proposal. Dustin and his team went through everything and helped us ensure that we were actually quoting the right government code and the right laws. And so this is a huge undertaking. I did want to thank Chris. She pulled her hair out for well over a year over this. So It seems like not a big deal, but it is one of the basic functions that we are required to do as a public agency. So with that, I won't go through every single line. As you can
Thank you.
see, it's a line 1. Board of Director pictures forever. We
There you
keep it
go.
forever. You won't do that. So if anyone has any questions.
I do.
I
Yes,
just,
please.
a quick comment. I have a,
I should have brought some.
I'm going to compliment, this is readable
Yeah.
and it's organized. It's not like Plan for Water Matrix.
With the holdouts.
Oh,
The first one I saw that Greg gave me was not readable.
Oh.
So thank you, Chris.
Chris, yes, she takes care of us.
That thing in the back is very good.
And we also, records is a whole process here. We scan most of the records, then we laserfish, they're searched through databases. It's a whole thing that happens. So this is gonna be a tool that will make this more streamlined for staff as well.
Excellent.
Yes, Earl.
I appreciate the work done here. I also appreciate getting rid of paper because it's a mess. I would just like to comment that I'd like to see some of the museum worthy artifacts kept. I think that'd be really cool.
Mhm.
With all the hacking that's going on right now, what is our system for making sure that we put all this stuff onto electronics and then somebody can't delete it, destroy it? How are we being safe there?
Yeah, we have an entire cybersecurity program that is very in-depth because prior to your joining the board, we did have a major hacking. And so we are it's a whole program that we could provide a presentation on, but we have a third party that monitors for any breaches. Staff is constantly monitoring for breaches. There's tons of firewalls in place. There's firewalls between this office and the hydro facilities. So it is a whole program and we do take it very, very seriously.
Not to say a fire couldn't destroy all the paperwork either in a building.
That would probably be the bigger risk is that, like the cool artifacts that you're talking, historical items, if there were some type of fire, we do have fireproof cabinets as well. We keep many, since we have so many old pieces of infrastructure that were acquired long ago, we do keep many of the property records and those types of things and fireproof cabinets.
Thank you.
Yes.
So
Chris.
maybe Ricky can confirm this one. I was taken by the striking of the video. Yeah. Oh my God, it's right.
Oh, my God.
What we went through to get that put in, and I want to be sure that this board or the public that was here at that time are going to revisit that one. And what is where do we stand on?
So video of
We spent a lot of time haggling over this one. Finally got approved by the board.
video of board meetings is still kept. I think we said for, what did we say?
Current year plus 5.
Current year plus 5. Most video is actually kept on the cloud online. We have our own YouTube channel, so you can access it whenever you want. There is a fundamental storage issue with keeping videos for the rest of their entire lives. They will always still be accessible through the internet.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
Meeting minutes and resolutions are kept.
Yeah.
Right.
Permanent.
I just have a question. So when these things are destroyed, they're not kept digitally or any other, is that am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, so you have to go through and identify, there's paperwork you have to fill out. You have to make sure you're compliant with the policy, then you fill out the paperwork, and then you destroy the document. Purging of electrical documents doesn't routinely happen as much as we do paper. We do try to move paper out of here. We do large shreds once or twice a year. Would something be kept electronically forever? Yes, to the extent that maybe it was needed, but it goes back to that comment I made previously. You have to be careful about keeping documents that you don't really need, because if you do get a Public Record Act request, then you have to produce the document. And there are times where Dustin and myself or Dustin's legal team, we will review, you'll get this mega Public Record Act request. And then we both have to go through and review every single document that was in there. And it can pose legal challenges for the district. So it is better to comply with your retention policy.
I was reminded of a scenario that happened. It predates any of us being on this board, where NID was able to locate a document that a gentleman was looking for regarding ownership of a pipe. And it turned out to be disadvantageous to the district, but the right thing ended up happening probably. But it was because NID had these copious amounts of historic records, somebody was able to locate this document. But, so that, I'm asking stuff like that, like, I guess I don't fully understand what level of records are being,
Property
that's why I was
documents are
asking.
typically kept forever, especially if it's our property that we own, we purchased
Yeah,
easements.
yeah, that was a disputed thing.
Yeah, a lot of like private conduit line applications of those, we do keep them forever too, because we
Okay.
have to go backwards so often to go piece together.
Retrace steps on,
Yeah.
okay.
And sometimes, to your point, sometimes having the document works in our favor and sometimes it doesn't. And, but doing the right thing
know what
is
I'm talking-
producing the document if you have it.
So,
On the, speaking of records, and searching for records, I've been asking for some records for about 6 months, and I'm wondering if maybe this streamlining will reveal that report I've been chasing.
So your report is not on any of the servers. So when we look,
It's gone.
yeah, I don't
It's
know
already
that,
destroyed. Cool.
I don't know that it was ever on any of the servers.
Okay.
So the record retention is only as good as the people who have the records and following the process for putting it into the servers.
And indexing it, right?
And indexing it. So staff, we can do searches of the servers, we can do searches of emails, we can do searches of Laserfish, all electronically. And in the document you're talking about, it was never put onto the server. Yeah, yeah. But I'll give you the part I do have.
The Dewey Decimal System is how the library. works. But do we have a system set up for all this stuff so we can find stuff without doing a word search, but just say, yes, this document is kept in this type of a system?
They're all kept in certain folders based off of what the document is, and then you can further refine searches within those. I have never actually searched for the documents.
She's sitting in here, actually. She does the searches. This is
Yeah.
Heather Murphy. She also helped with this whole process, our central files team.
ah,
So you'll see the record number. So that is kind of our Dewey Decimal System there. But then our central files, when things are turned into central files for retention, they'll actually fill in all the metadata so that we can search under different parameters.
A lot of times you do have to come up with different parameters in which to search something.
Mhm.
And also we have such a variety of different documents. We have property documents and invoices and
Those old binders.
personnel, and we have old
Time
books and
sheets.
binders and time sheets and everything under
A
the
lot of meta tags and
yes.
Yes.
when do you plan the next shred? For us who've been, retaining,
If you have old agendas or anything, just bring it in. We'll destroy it for you. Those things are not public records necessarily, because those public records already exist. But if you ever need to get rid of your NID papers, just bring them over.
does it work for compost?
no,
No.
not organic.
Will chickens eat it?
Oh,
Any further board questions or
what a
comment?
chicken do.
Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing on this item. Are there any comments from the public, either here or virtually? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And if we're
Oh.
ready, we'll have a motion.
I propose to adopt a resolution approving updates to District Policy 1060, Records Retention and Records Retention Schedule.
Second it.
We have a motion, a second. Please call the roll, Madam Secretary.
With pleasure. Division 5,
Yes.
Division 4,
Yes.
Division 3,
All right.
Division 2,
Aye.
Division 1.
Yes.
Thank you.
And thank you all for your work. I saw this in its early stages. Oh my God. It's
You.
it's a big piece of work. Okay, next, General Manager's report.
I don't have a whole lot to report, with the exception, I did want to give a little bit of an update on our PG&E issue. They are basically about 2 days ahead of schedule. They just provided a new schedule related to the repairs at Spalding 1. We should start seeing water refilling of the tunnel in kind of into June 28th, June 29th. And so we will be getting the South Yuba Canal ready prior to that so we can start moving water as quick as possible. As we've been talking about, we do anticipate water supply to have a little bit more of a decrease than last year, but hopefully, we kind of start getting water in sooner, we can flatten that out. Just because it was so hot this year and we didn't have that early May storm like we did last year. That storm really topped us off last year. We didn't get that this year.
So there, So 2 days ahead,
maybe.
but they're gonna wet it up, test it, and fully charge.
They'll start moving water into the tunnel, which will allow us to start moving water as they start moving it through the powerhouse and testing it.
So instead of August 2nd, maybe mid-July?
We're July 8th.
It just depends on how long the testing period is. They go, but during full return to service, didn't change, did it? No. Full return to service is still August. They will do testing through July, but when they are in testing, in order to do the testing, they start sending us some water.
Right.
We'll take any water we can get.
600 cubic feet.
Not during testing. It will fluctuate more than that.
So when it does go full, it'll be what, 750,
Yeah, between,
Ish.
hopefully, it'll
700?
be somewhere between 600 and 800.
But South Yuba will be getting 75, 85, 95, whatever.
One
Okay.
of the components that is somewhat unknown right now is the full extent of the damage to the intake tower. They did complete the,
Months.
I know, they did complete the rover inspection, which is the camera inspection of the tower. They were able to pull out all of the debris. They did have some internal conversation as whether or not, so the intake tower is lower elevation than the upper elevation intake. They did have some preliminary conversations that when the lake reaches a level to where they can't use that upper elevation intake anymore, they may place flow restrictions on the lower intake tower, but that is still unknown because the engineers haven't determined the extent of the damage of the tower.
And so they have in-stream demands for the South Yuba River.
It's only 5 CFS.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
So technically, we could get the rest, but
It's still unknown. We'll have to report back once they get their investigation of the tower complete.
so anybody asking, and a lot of people are, just say, hey, still potential, we'll have rotational outages, but hopefully not.
We're hoping not. We may have to go through one on the Cascade and hopefully not on Rollins side. You know, anytime it really heats up for multiple days in a row, we do see water use.
And next week is hot.
This week is not too bad, but once you start getting in the hundreds, that's when, especially, you know, pulling down into the Lincoln area because it gets way hotter down there.
Rotating outages would be on the Nevada County side only or
Likely.
likely?
Last year, we didn't have to implement outages or rotating outages on the Placer County side.
But this year Rollins is dropping faster than
Rollins is
Scottsbluff.
dropping faster, so if we get these big hot spells. And it wasn't, we didn't get that top off that happened after irrigation season started, which we had last year, which was very helpful.
Jen, I'm getting some questions about the boat ramp closures on Rollins and when we think, well, and also Scotts Flat, but when do we think that the levels will drop to such a degree? And maybe this is a chip question, end of June? At just Rollins or Rollins and Scotts?
Just Rollins.
Everybody's looking at each other over there, over there.
Okay, it's your turn.
Thanks, Monica.
Monica Reyes, Director of Recreation. As far as Rollins, we have detached Long Ravine boat slips and our fuel dock. So they are not connected to shoreline anymore because it's too shallow. Orchard is actually being detached today. I think Greenhorn they're settled in mud right now, and Peninsula, their slips are out of the water as well. Boat launches, we're thinking Orchard is probably going to be the one that survives. We did do some work on it last year when it got low. We were able to get the backhoe out there and dig out some of that silt. We're going to try to do the same thing as it gets lower since it's dropping dramatically. Scotts Flat is just a slow drop right now, so we hope that we'll be fine. Last year we had the Scotts Flat side boat launch was open and the whole time. Cascade Shores closed right after Labor Day. It was hitting mud. So
Okay,
we're okay.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for that information. Okay.
Yeah, good job.
Continue. Did you have other
I have a
questions?
question. I may have missed this in my absence about Powerhouse 2 and the outage for that. Did that happen or?
They will need to do an additional outage for Powerhouse 2 because if you recall, they did the work that was related to the governor of the bearings that burned up, but now they need to do a full replacement of the wicket gates instead of just a repair of the wicket gates. So that will be a whole secondary outage that will occur. But we can, if we have Spalding 1 completely working and they worked on a bypass for Spalding 2, we should be okay if they're able to bypass water.
They were gonna make.
Mhm.
Okay.
But there will be some type of repair still needed for Spalding 2.
Thank you.
And there will be an outage.
Pardon?
There will be an outage.
But it might not affect us because they will likely be able to bypass the water through there.
But they tried to bypass earlier and didn't work.
That was when the tunnel was still filled. I think they're still working on the bypass. The tunnel flange was leaking and they were concerned with workers in the horn with the leaking coming out of the tunnel. Because if it collapsed, it would drown the people working in the horns. There's a little different situation going on with the future repairs of the wicket gates.
So we're more than likely, we're not going to see a full outage.
No,
Okay.
unless
That was-
something
That was my question.
is wrong.
Cause, yeah.
No.
Thank you.
And then they still have to do the repair of the low level outlet that will occur at some point. But they are not, they think of, as of right now, they won't need to drop the elevation of the reservoir. And they'll do work by diving and then put like a bulkhead in it so they can still do that repair of that low level outlet that comes out of the dam.
Okay. Any other questions on this item?
It's too depressing.
Can Steve report on the Sierra Business Council?
Well, wait, we want to finish the
Well,
general manager's
I
report.
thought she was done.
Please.
All right, so what Director Johansson is referring to is there is a new initiative by the county to have a Western Nevada County Climate Collaborative. I think they just changed their name because that was a mouthful. There was an initial meeting that occurred and they has invited NID to participate. We did have Mr. Prosser represent the district as well as Director Johansson also went. So what I'm going to be doing, and it was initial meeting. So what I'm going to be doing at the next meeting is bring forth an item so the board can formally select who they would like a board member to represent on this committee. Next meeting is in July in Truckee,
Yes, 11th.
July 11th in Truckee.
Does that conclude your general manager's report?
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yes, it does.
Okay, that being said, we'll move to Board of Directors items reports. Brad, let's start with you today.
On, I believe it was this Monday, it could have been a month ago, but I think it was actually this Monday. Attended a joint meeting with PCWA and it was exceedingly informational and was made aware of some things that I need to learn more about, but I thought it was very agreeable and I actually enjoyed that. And I'm looking forward to developing those relationships there with our quasi partners down the hill a little bit. And next week I've got a couple tours that I'm very excited about. I'm going to see the South Yuba Canal. It should be nice and cool up in the high country. Am I supposed to bring a fishing pole or something?
Yes.
You know, and then we're gonna go see Scott's Flat also, so I'm
Right.
looking forward to those.
Yeah, me too.
No
Your way.
report except for what he just said about the tours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fishing pole.
Fishing pole.
Light tackle.
So many
Other
tours.
big fish.
Get up to Director Bearwax.
Huh?
Stevens?
I enjoyed the joint meeting with PCWA also. Lots to learn there, the intricacies of it and how we can work together to hopefully make things very smooth and to the transitions and stuff like that. I also am concerned, and I shared this with Jen, is that mussels were found at Tahoe. And I'm just wondering, I know things are going on and moving fast, but I'm just wondering if we couldn't help fund a research at UC Davis or get part of a group so that, I don't know what, but I don't see a solution coming down the pike from above. I almost think we might have to develop our own and maybe a research project with a university or something.
There is some research projects going on. Monica, as well as Sierra and Tina from Hydro Compliance they're actually one of the leaders in the area with moving forward with the project. So, or with a plan and also understanding the future. So we'll continue to work towards opportunities and specifically if they include research.
It was my understanding Brazil doesn't really have a plan. They just scrape,
Brazil's thought to do a plan a little too late.
but we may be in that same situation too. And I mean, if I understand correctly, their solution is to open things up, scrape it with a shovel and put it back in business.
Mhm.
And I don't think that's a very effective way of running an operation here. So I don't know, maybe there's something very simple to um, interrupt the breeding cycle or something that one of these researchers could figure out for us. But
To Earl's question, and I apologize, this might
That's
not be
okay.
appropriate. Who's the guru of the mussels?
Monica.
No, it is certainly, certainly in our agency, but is there somebody in the state
A
that
lead.
this is their deal? Yeah, who's the world's leading scientist?
Well, I don't know about the it's California Department of Fish and Wildlife is taking the lead on these.
And they have the best and most current information as far as we know.
They do, and we have a secret and a formerly retired director of engineering. His wife runs a lot of the program.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Really?
That's,
From Montana, I understand.
I did not say any names.
To tag along with Earl, our best bet now is prevention and exclusion until we do know. And when we know, then we can make different decisions if that warrants making a better decision. Yeah, Steve, I thought the meeting on climate thing was quite well run, and even climate neutral came, carbon neutral term came up, but was not received that well. It's like, maybe I shouldn't say that, but it's like we're looking for solutions besides just eliminate, things. So it's an interesting group. And then the Nevada County Sustainability Summit, although it's first part of October, that's going to come up, and that'll be in Truckee also.
okay. For me, I'm looking also forward to those tours next week. I'm excited. And then the last thing I want to just mention, and I'm hoping there's somebody out there who is got the mussel concerns like we're hearing about. I keep getting letters, emails, Facebook posts from a variety of fishermen and fisherwomen, anglers, we'll call them, who are really concerned, of course, about closing the high country lakes. And the one piece that I think that they're missing in their comments is the fact that the water moves. So our closure of those upper division lakes is part of the prevention, but the water doesn't just stay there. The water moves downstream and into, Bowman and Spalding and so on and so on. So I think there is this perception that if the water is up there, that they're immune to the mussels.
No
And-
harm, no foul.
Right. And they're forgetting the piece that, first of all, they're not immune. And secondly, if they were to be introduced, they will go right down the watershed just like everything else does.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to make that comment because I think folks are forgetting that.
Good.
So with that,
Can I tag with that?
yes, please.
Something I learned from Monica that I'm hearing from the anglers, hey, they can't live in water less than 41 degrees. Well, that's not true.
That's right.
They can live for 108 days at 32 degrees. And so I think we have better science, and we're listening to the science. And personally, until we get a handle on this, I think we should entertain severe fines, something to anybody who launches a boat into Bowman or Jackson Meadows. I mean, and if once we do allow it, if we do, I want full indemnity. If they're caught with golden mussels, they're going to start paying for the eradication. So I mean, that's how strong I am, because we're trying to protect a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure here that serves tens and tens of thousands of people. And it's just not about fishing.
Okay, with that, I believe we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.